how to get the most out of this book. As you begin this book, you know that psychology deals with many problems of everyday life and thus with many things that you have already experienced. You are therefore in a position to derive some personal benefits from the study of psychology. In a formal college course, however, it is not possible for the instructor to relate everything that is taught to your experience. Hence, to get the most from the course, you will have to make many of these applications yourself. You should continually ask yourself, how does this apply to my experience? And, how can I use what I am learning? If you take these questions seriously, you will profit much more from the course than if you simply learn by rote what is assigned. Here are some suggestions for covering each chapter. You might begin by looking over the heading outline and the summary. These sections obviously do not cover everything in the chapter, but they do hit the high points. The few minutes it takes to get the overall organization of a chapter in mind will be a great help when you dive into it for intensive study. Many students try to read textbooks the way they read novels. They passively run their eyes over the words and hope that some information will sink in. But textbooks are packed with facts and explanations. To assimilate them, one must work at the task. Read every sentence carefully. Be sure you understand what it says. Reread paragraphs and sections that give you difficulty. To understand what follows, usually you must understand what went before. Pay attention to the illustrations and tables. In this book, they are fully as important as the corresponding discussions in the text. In some cases, we have used illustrations to teach something that is not included in the text. At appropriate points in your reading, usually before going on to a new heading, you should scan the illustrations to make certain you have examined and fully understood them. Every technical subject uses its own special terms, and psychology is no exception. Ordinarily, a definition is given in the text whenever a new term is introduced. Since chapters will not always be assigned in the order of their arrangement in the book, a glossary is included at the back of the book. You should be especially cautious not to neglect a definition just because the term is already familiar to you. Do not, for example, pass over words like attitude, personality, intelligence, and motive because these are words that you use in everyday speech. In psychology, these and other common terms often have special meanings that differ from the definitions commonly used. Make sure you know the psychological definitions of all terms. Lists of terms are included at the end of each chapter. Use these to review your mastery of terminology. These terms are defined in both the text and the glossary. Science is produced by scientists, and it is common practice in science to give credit for particular experiments and ideas to the scientists who have contributed them. Sometimes this practice is annoying and distracting, so we have tried not to use too many names, but to give credit where credit is due. We have put the names of the experimenters in parentheses where particular studies or ideas are cited. These names refer to the references section at the back of the book. Use it if you want to learn more about the topic under discussion. The suggestions for further reading sections are another good place to start a more detailed study of a chapter's topics. Other hints about how to look up more information are given in Appendix 2. There is a study guide for this text that you may purchase as an aid in your study and review. The guide contains chapter reviews, sample test questions, and other aids to help you learn definitions and concepts. By the time you finish this course, you should have a good view of modern-day psychology. We hope that this text does just what we have intended, introduce you to a broad, exciting field, rich in its implications for everyday life. Whether you are planning a career as a behavioral scientist or not, try to take a scientific point of view as you study this text. Ask yourself, what do we really know? What do we need to know? How can we find out? How can we improve matters? Keep these questions at the back of your mind as you read and pursue your interest in human behavior.